I think I wanted to ask the members of the media to be at least in front, closer to the panel.
You're sitting here.
And then my other colleagues can take the...
You're sitting here. You're here.
Oh.
You're sitting here.
No, Susan is in the left.
Okay.
Other things were put by us. So they can be removed.
Oh, the names are not right. Oh, okay.
It's fine, you guys.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to be very brief. We'll dedicate more time to questions. My name is Mohamed Sumufuke. I am the spokesman for PRASA. I just want to introduce on the panel. I will start firstly with the Group CEO of PRASA, Mr. Lucky Montana. Then next to him on the right is the CEO of PRASA Rail. I think you know it as Metro Rail. And then on his right is Tebela Kulu. She is the regional manager for Gauteng for Metro Rail. Sorry about that. And then we have Mr. Tabo Morukulali from the UCB. Group CEO, I was mandated by Lillian to acknowledge labor, both Undu and Satao. And I think with those few words, I will then hand over to the Group CEO to speak to him. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media, colleagues from PRASA. I think that let me take this opportunity, of course, to first welcome you to Pretoria Station. And of course, I think it's been a very difficult day yesterday. Not only for us as the passenger rail agency, as well as our operating divisions, but I think for the transport sector as a whole, the country. I think that, of course, this incident came at a time, when the national mood itself, we're still trying to recover from a number of other, negative developments. I think that we've been dealing with the issue about the attacks on foreigners, and we had the accident, the metro bus accidents. So I think as we were busy emerging out of all of those, then we have this collusion yesterday. We'll talk more about the details because we want to use this press conference to report back. I just want to, of course, start by extending our condolences to our colleague, the Metro Guard, who got killed in that accident yesterday. And I think that he died in the course of duty. And I think as a PRASA family, we want to extend our heartfelt, our sincere condolences, not only to his family, but also to his colleagues, because I know that yesterday, when some of our colleagues had received the news, many of them were devastated, heartbroken. It was a difficult day for many of our own drivers and guards to even take their trains for the afternoon peak. So it was a difficult day for us. So we want to start at that level. We also want to wish those injured in this tragic incident. I know yesterday we spoke about 243 people who got injured in the incident, and I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the board, the management, and employees of PRASA to extend our wishes for speedy recovery, and say, of course, to Tate Morukuladi here, who represent the commuter structures, of course, that many of these are your constituency, and we want to take this opportunity to wish them well. I think PRASA has been there supporting them. I think I must also take this opportunity to thank our Honorable Minister of Transport, Minister Dipuo Peters, as well as the MEC of Transport, Mr. Ishmael Vadi, who came to the scene yesterday, who interacted with the injured who went to the hospital with us. I think we stayed in hospital till late, almost midnight, just visiting those who were injured in this in this collision. Of course, finally, I also want to take this opportunity to wish, especially our driver who's still in hospital. I know that we were with the family yesterday, and yes, I think that she's still recovering. She's been very strong. I think that this has been a very tragic. I think those of you yesterday who took pictures there from the media, you saw that was a horrific collision, as it were. So I think that I wanted to start by saying those. This collision, of course, comes at a time when we as PRASA are going through a major transformation. And I know that when we have such a collision in railways, you may say that we don't have many of these, but one of these collisions, of course, involves so many people. I think that if you look at the two trains that collided yesterday, one was carrying just over 700 people, the other one at around 200 people. And we're very lucky because if it probably was much earlier than that, in the heart of the morning peak, would have those trains being full to capacity, and the numbers would have been quite different. So I want to say that an accident like this, of course, divert attention, because the country was focusing on what we are doing in respect of public transport. And we have to sit and discuss, of course, loss of life, injury to people. And I think from a public point of view, there's been a lot of questions being asked. One of those being, is public transport safe? I think if you listen to radio yesterday, a lot of people say we're being urged to use public transport, we're being urged to use buses, taxis, and trains, but we've seen a metro bus accident last week, now it's a train accident. But I want to take this opportunity to assure South Africans that we are doing everything, not only as PRASA, but as government, at national level, Department of Transport, provincial government, and the different cities, to ensure that South Africans have a decent quality public transport. And I think that public transport remains the future. Of course, for it to work and to enjoy the confidence of everyone, it must be reliable, it must be safe, and those are the things that we are working on. And for PRASA, I know that this year is a very exciting year for us. It is a year that we are starting to introduce some of the new trains. I think many of you saw that on the long distance side, we've already introduced some of the locomotives for intercity travel. In November this year, we're starting to test the first trains that will replace the metro rail trains as we know them. So the next generation of commuter trains are coming into our system. And most importantly, of course, our signaling system itself is undergoing that kind of transformation. So it is very important that as we reflect on all of these developments, we don't lose sight of the fact that that modernization is currently underway. And in fact, the incident yesterday confirmed the critical need to accelerate the process of modernization of our rail system. I'm saying so because there are a number of factors that when you deal with modern trains, the situation will be quite different. I mean, if you look at the wreckage, you can see that one of the poor features of the current fleet is the crash worthiness of these trains. It's modern trains that are designed to absorb the impact And but you saw at the wreckage yesterday of the 2 trains, one even moved over into a building. Now it shouldn't happen. So I think that the need to accelerate the replacement process is very important for us as PRASA. Another important issue relates to the onboard signaling. As you know, that the new trains will bring a lot of that. And of course, it won't rely so much. It will eliminate some of the human factors so that you ensure that in your operation, you reduce, you can't eliminate completely, of course, but you reduce human error involved in the running of trains and decision making as it were. So that is very important. Even in respect of speed, the new trains, we know that with the electronics and the technology that is coming, we know that when someone accelerate beyond what is allowed in a particular section, that these trains will be able to automatically apply brakes as it were. So that is very important that for us as the leadership of PRASA, we want to affirm the fact that one of the best ways of reducing, if not eliminating, similar accidents or occurrences is to ensure that we accelerate that process of modernization. And I'm quite pleased when I look at the work we've done, that indeed we are on course to making sure that we deliver a new train system for the people of South Africa starting from this year, as it were. So this accident will spur us on to even double our efforts to make sure that we contribute to a more reliable, more safer public transport for the people of South Africa, as it were. It is very important also to highlight the fact that we are not saying that all our problems are going to be solved by new trains or new signals. That is not our approach. In fact, I think that yesterday again, another issue that came out into the public discourse was the issue of, do we have a safety system that is operating in the country? Are these trains just moving? A driver coming on board? I mean, these are questions that are being asked. But I want to assure the media and I want to assure the country that South Africa has got a very robust safety regime in place that governs the movement of trains. In fact, the design of a railway system is based on safety. It could be a modern system, it could be an old system, but it's based on safety. It's premised on the fact that when a train moves into one section, that section will be protected so that another train doesn't move into there. So these are the general principles of the design of your train operations, of your signaling the system, so that when the train moves, you protect that section where that is occupied by another train to reduce accidents as it were. However, accidents do occur. And I want to say that the first issue that I want to highlight is that we operate in terms of a license, and that license is issued by the Rail Safety Regulator. And as you know that the Rail Safety Regulator, before we get the license, we must put in place quite a number of things. Amongst the key issues is the safety management system, on how we manage the operating risks that are there, how we deal with interfaces between trains and between trains from different companies. For example, the interface between metro rail trains and freight trains are clearly regulated by an interface agreement that is in place as a requirement of the law that is there. So we don't just operate these trains and then they just meet in the middle of the tracks, as it were. So it's a very strong regime that the Rail Safety Regulator has put in place. We run over 2,200 metro rail trains around the country. And you can just imagine that it's a big operation. We run those safely. We don't have accidents at any given day, precisely because we follow certain procedures. We've got a certain way of authorizing the movement of trains. We review the performance of trains on any given day. That is part of the procedures that we do on a regular basis, as it were. So we've got a very sound system. When you listen to the CEO of the Rail Safety Regulator speaking yesterday, he in fact confirmed that as a passenger rail agency of South Africa, we've actually been doing well in our safety performance over the last few years. And I think it's very important that, when we have an accident like this, many people are injured, the country sometimes we lose focus, and we focus on the accident as if it's an everyday occurrence. In fact, the CEO of the Rail Safety Regulator summarized the State of Railway Safety Report, which he tables annually in Parliament. And that State of Railway Safety Report confirms that PRASA in particular has been doing so well in respect of collisions on this thing. In fact, we had in 2012-2013, where we had a single collision. We had the following year when there was a zero collision, and in the last financial year, we only had 2 collisions. Of course, the numbers are quite significant. It's not 5 number. If trains get involved in an accident, then you deal with people in the hundreds, and that is why the country will be concerned. And I think those of us who are charged with the responsibility to run and manage these assets and operations, we've got the responsibility to assure the country that we run a very safe system. So from a collision point of view, I want to say that we run a very safe system as it is. Secondly, when we look at derailments on active lines, in fact, that the Rail Safety Regulator says PRASA never had, in fact, those derailments in the previous years, as it were, and I think that's very important to state. Thirdly, on level crossings, I think that since the last massive incident that we had in 2010 with the kids, the taxi driver who went onto the rail tracks at the level crossing, and 16 kids died. We never had actually any of these level crossing incidents. So the Rail Safety Regulator is very clear, and I think the annual review provides, or confirms rather, that our safety performance is one that has been going an upward trend, or rather a downward trend in terms of the number of incidents. The risks that we face as PRASA, I must state, if you analyze our safety records, we've got 2 major risks that we face immediately. The first one, of course, is of people who cross what you call illegal crossings, people who cross one line from one side of a settlement into the other. And I think that those are people that are generally hit by trains, and I think that's where the main challenge is. The second challenge, of course, is that relates to settlements, because we've seen in many parts of the country where people build informal settlements on the railway reserve, and we've seen young kids playing on the railway tracks and all of those things, and I think that it presents a big challenge for us. But from point of view of collisions, of derailments, as well as level crossings, you'll see that the safety record speaks for itself, and I think that is a record that we are proud of. We have, as management of PRASA, after the Mzimhlophe train collisions, I think that was about 3 years ago, we implemented a number of measures to make sure that we are in control of the situation. This is in addition to the safety regime required by the Rail Safety Regulator. The first issue that we implemented what we call a zero tolerance towards what we call specs, when drivers pass red signals and all of those things. We've made it a dismissible offense. Of course, we do follow the due process. I know that the union people are here, they'll be unhappy with me. I prefer to fire some of these guys on the spot, but of course it's against the law of the Republic. We do subject them to disciplinary action, but they know if they're found guilty of this, then they get fired after having followed that process, because we have drivers who they carry so many people on these trains, and therefore people's lives are very important. So the first measure we introduced since 2013 is a zero tolerance towards what we call signal past a danger. That means a driver passing a red signal, whether there's a collision or not, but we do take a very firm action. That's the first issue that we do. The second issue or measure that we've implemented is what we call random assessments of our drivers. making sure that no one, for example, come with substance abuse, someone drinking or smoking and getting into a train, because that is a major risk for us. So we do random testing all the time, and we do discipline, for example, drivers who resist taking a random test in some of our own depots, because that is very important. The third issue has been the issue of arrest, because we know that fatigue is one of the major issues that we must manage. Is one of the major issues that we must manage in terms of human factors. As you know, that the Rail Safety Regulator has developed what we call the Human Factor Management Standard, and as PRASA, we played a key role in contributing towards the development of that standard. And what we've done is that we've been managing our employees in critical grades in particular, making sure that these employees do take rests as required, and that we don't have a situation where drivers work long hours or people chasing overtime and not taking the kind of rest that is required, that is there. The fourth major step that we've implemented and that we've implemented very solidly has been what we call medical surveillance. Medical surveillance is where critical grades in particular, drivers, train control officers, and some of our key maintenance people go for medical annual checkups, and we said that they must do it at least twice a year to check on their eyes, on their health, because again, you don't want someone who says, well, I couldn't see, or someone who had to drive with glasses, I didn't have glasses, and they drive this train and they can't actually distinguish colors and those type of things, because that is one of the major safety issues that you find in railways, as it were. So I'm saying all of these things to say that there is a major compliance requirement for us to get our operating license, and that requires us to implement what we call a safety management system, a safety plan, as well as an interface agreement. That is the requirement of the Rail Safety Regulator. I'm saying that over and above all of those requirements, we as PRASA, particularly through our rail division, we do implement specific measures that make sure that we run a safety system, as it were. We felt it was very important that we tell the country on what we do in respect of safety, and that one incident shouldn't put into question whether we've got a safety system in place. But of course, as it happens internationally, whenever there's a rail accident, two important things happen. The first one is that an independent authority like the Rail Safety Regulator must undertake an investigation, and that is there. We are guided by that, and that investigation, it looks at the immediate causes of the accident, and secondly, it looks at some of the underlying causes around that. Let me give an example. You may find that you've got an accident that is caused by someone speeding or passing through a red signal, but you may find that the underlying cause is the fact that we don't have enough rest for the drivers, for example, or that we don't have proper training or refresher courses. Is one of the measures that we have, because our drivers are trained over an 18-month period, and that is not only on the techniques of the train, but also on route knowledge. And most of these guys, that they know their route very well. They know even the signals just without having to refer to a book, as it were. So they may pick up and say, you are not training these guys adequately, and they don't go through refresher program. They may identify that in addition to an immediate cause. So there is always, they will investigate what is an immediate cause, and they will investigate what will be the underlying reasons why you have. And that is an independent authority. They do that by law. Even we as PRASA will always do our own internal investigation. But that investigation is not a substitute, cannot take over what is a requirement of the law. That the Rail Safety Regulator is by law required. And they work with us. They check, they review our own data to make sure that their own conclusions are fair. They give us an opportunity to comment on their own findings, to see whether they're sound. They do get even outside experts to comment on to all of those things. So it is a very detailed process that we have. So I felt it was very important for me to emphasize those issues, to give context also to what we're about to announce. I'm going to ask my colleague, the CEO of PRASA Rail Operations, our rail division, to specifically talk and brief you about our own preliminary findings. But as I said, that these do not take over or precedence over the Rail Safety Regulator, because we still have to submit our own, make our own submissions to the RSR as it undertakes its own investigation. And then at the end, of course, after Mosengwa has spoken about the results, or the preliminary results, let me emphasize, preliminary results, these are initial findings. They are not conclusive, they are not final. I need to emphasize that. After he has done all of that, I will then talk about what system we put in place to support those who were injured in the train accident, and then we can take questions thereafter. And then I think that in the course of the discussions, of course, I think that we've invited the chair, the regional leader of the committees here, to make comments on how we deal with the systems. So I was trying to emphasize what are the technical requirements, what are the management responsibilities. But Mosengwa, if you can brief us about the preliminary results, as it were. You want us to swap positions?
Oh.
So it becomes Group CEO of PRASA?
No, we're just trying to make it work for the visuals.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not demoted.
Thank you, Group CEO, and welcome again, members of the media and the staff from PRASA, as well as the chairperson of the United Commuter Voice and the representatives of Labour. What I'm going to do is to sketch out what happened based on the initial technical findings that have been undertaken up till this morning. So as the Group CEO has indicated, this is a preliminary report. It only outlines what happened and not the cause. Now, as you know, in these kinds of investigations, you will have to explore multiple factors. An incident cannot be attributed to one factor only. And that process is being undertaken. But at the same time, it's important as well to indicate that the RSR has already indicated yesterday what its preliminary findings are. And you would note that in our report, we pretty much confirm the findings that the RSR has made. We're working what is happening at this moment. Let me confirm a few facts. The incident happened the actual crash happened at 7 minutes past 7, and the train, the Tshwane Business Express, collided with the Metro Plus, and both trains were from Pretoria. The signaling system in operation in the affected line is what we call an automatic signaling system, and I just need to explain this so that it doesn't create any confusion. The automatic signaling system means that when a train occupies the track, the signals behind the train will protect the train through the red light, indicating a warning to the train that is behind. So automatically, the system is structured in such a way that should a train occupy a section, another train cannot come into that section. If an automated signaling system is in good order, what happens is that you can't have two trains in one section. Automatically, once a train occupies a section, the signals will protect that train. It means the signal behind will be red so that it doesn't allow another train to get into that section that is occupied. Now, at the time of the accident, and this is based on the technical analysis that was undertaken, there was no signal failure that was reported in the area of the accident, and I can confirm that 12 trains from 4 a.m. passed that area before the incident. I can also confirm that at 6:55, the Metro Plus stopped. No, the last train passed that signal. And at 7:05, the Metro Plus stopped at that signal. Now, the driver indicated, he reported that he wasn't sure whether the signal was giving him a clearance or not. And therefore, he communicated with the train control office. And I think it was in the process of that communication when the crash happened. And the crash happened 2 minutes thereafter. So we can confirm that the Metro Plus was stationary for around 2 minutes. That's the estimated time before the crash. Now, what were the findings of the microprocessor? The microprocessor is like a black box that we put in our rolling stock, in our trains. And it captures data as the train moves, the driving patterns, speed, and so on. Now, the impact speed, we can confirm that it was at 61 kilometers per hour. That was the impact speed. And also we can confirm that 1 minute, 30 seconds before the incident, the train was moving at 105 kilometers per hour. And 15 seconds before the impact, the train was moving at 91 kilometers per hour. And of course, as I said, the impact speed was 61 kilometers per hour. Also, we can confirm that the signal behind was past at danger. Remember, the group CEO spoke about SPADs, signals past at danger, meaning that the signal is indicating red and automatically protecting the train in front. So if a signal is past at danger, it means the driver has passed a red robot. These are the findings as well that the RSR has made and pronounced yesterday, and we can confirm that. Also, I think it's important to also indicate that the issue on the human factor side, the issue of driver fatigue has been excluded because both drivers had sufficient rest over the weekend. So those were the first trains that they took. So we can also confirm that. Also, the last confirmation on our side is that whilst 240 people were seen at the scene, we can confirm that 187 went to different hospitals. These are the numbers that our teams confirmed throughout the day and overnight. And at the moment, only 5 are left in the hospital. It means the rest have been discharged. So that is the status at this moment. As I indicated, we have not yet established the immediate cause of the incident. We have sketched out what transpired, what happened, and of course the investigation, the in-depth investigation is ongoing, As the Group CEO indicated, in railways, we also do a root cause analysis, which will then give us a sense of what are the causal factors. It may be a multitude of factors, and we're looking at all possibilities. And at the same time, the RSR as well is proceeding with its detailed investigations, and I think we shall await as well the outcome of that investigation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think I just want to deal with the last part before we take questions. The CEO, of course, was also meant to comment on the safety record of our driver, and we must say that she has had a splendid record, as it were. I think that in fact, last year she was awarded the 10-year safety award. She joined our company in 2002, and throughout that 10-year period, I think she distinguished herself well. Yeah. And I think that once someone is awarded that a 10-year safety, of course we've got 10 years, 20 years, others get even 30-year awards. People have been, and you can see the amount of signals they've got to contend with, but making sure that they keep up to that. And I think that we needed to, a lot of questions were asked yesterday about the record of our drivers and everything, but I'll tell you that we've got people who take pride in their work, who are committed. Sometimes, of course, these are men and women who drive these trains, and when they experience difficulties, they're subjected to abuse and everything. And I want to state very clearly that whilst we are very open about everything that is there's management, we're very clear that we support these employees. They work under very difficult conditions, and I think that of course it is a South African thing that when there's a big problem like this one, we try, the first thing we look at is to apportion blame than deal with this with the situation in its totality, as it were. But of course, as the leadership, will take accountability for everything, and whether we've put sufficient controls in place to make sure that everything goes according to plan. So as management, we are quite pleased with the record. It's not someone who's bringing in disciplinary records for breaking company policies and all of those things. It was very important to emphasize that. Finally, or lastly, let me just report on what we are doing about the people who got injured. I think many have been released, but as we announced yesterday, we want to repeat that we've set aside from our insurance funds a total amount of 25 million rands to help people who are injured during this time. And let me emphasize that the 25 million rands is for people who have suffered minor injuries. So people were seen at hospital yesterday, and of course that the 25 million rands will be spent in this way. It won't be divided amongst people who are injured. People they will claim and will pay them some between 7.5, that is a minimum amount will pay, and of course that the maximum amount will pay is 15,000 rands, as it were. We've set up 2 offices. One is here in this very lounge. Commuters should be able to come here or send their family members if they're still in pain, they're not able to come here, to put the claim in there, because we know that people will still need to buy medication, and some will, for example, stay for a couple of days without being able to go to work, and therefore they'll need the cash to be able to recover from this particular incident. So we set aside the 25 billion rands for those with minor injuries, as it were, and people can claim immediately from this morning. We've been operating this office here, I think, from 7 o'clock till about 6 in this one, as well as in the Shosholoza main lounge at Park Station. So many of the people, of course, came from Pretoria, but some of the people came from the East Rand, got into the Kempton Park and other stations, so they'll be able to go into Park Station and put their claims. the 25 million does not include medical costs. PRASA will pay for everyone who went to hospital, who will meet the medical, will pay those medical bills. That is part of the practice that we have. So if you claim 77.5 or 10,000 or 15,000, I hope I didn't say a million. Did I say?
No.
I don't want to send the wrong message and people take us to So 57. So you can claim at the minimum 7.5, maximum 15,000, and that of course will depend on the nature and extent of your injuries that you've suffered. We've done that previously, and I think that we've got a way of determining those amounts that are there. So the offices are open 7 till, I think that we'll run them till tomorrow, and we'll also run them for the whole of next week so that people can come through and make the claim. So that excludes the medical bills. For those who went to Mill Park, Hillbrow or Charlotte Maxeke, PRASA will take care of the medical costs. People should not be worried about that. Because when I arrived at Mill Park, there were people that were worried that their medical funds will not be able to meet, they will not receive medical care because they don't have sufficient funds in their medical aids to be able to do that. That is a PRASA responsibility. There are, of course, those who are critically injured. They are not part of the 25 because I think that they will follow a completely different process because their recovery may actually require more support than what we have. So we'll deal with that quite differently. And of course, there's a last group of people that we won't deal with. Those who say we're not going to go directly to PRASA, we feel that we should go to the lawyers. Of course, that's a completely different process. You can't come here. We're opening for those. We are saying for those who want assistance, there are no lawyers involved. Like the Road Accident Fund does it. You get injured, you go there, you claim, and we pay you immediately, and you continue with your lives. I mean, when we look at the average income of people who travel on these trains, it's 2,500. But we know that when you say people earn 2,500 on average, we know that if you were to look right into the box, you've got people who earn 800 rands, domestic workers, you've got people who are casual workers who work 3 times a day and all those kind of things. So I think that you don't want these people as a casual worker who lose income because they were involved in a train and they're working for some small business that is not able to pay. So we had to bring in that human factor and make sure that our customers are supported. I must say that we as a company, we do insure both our assets as well as our own customers. Of course, we are assuming that people buy tickets, and that is why I encourage people to buy tickets, because when there's incidents like this, we then have to take responsibility. So on average here, people pay maybe R350 for a ticket. We think that people should urge them to pay because part of it pays for the insurance that we have to insure both the assets as well as people that are there. So that is our approach. That is a comprehensive report we felt we should give to the media and to the country this morning. And I think that we should be able to take any question. Thembela, any addition from your side?
I think just to say the commuters struggled yesterday. There was only one line that was open. This afternoon, the second line is going to be open so that at least we can ease the traveling of the commuters. Over the weekend, all 4 lines are going to be back on functionality.
Thank you.
Thank you, Group CEO. Before I come to you, I just wanted to, some of you have been asking for the names of the 2 colleagues, the one who died, passed away, and the one who was in hospital. The one who was in hospital, the train driver, her name is Meshia Sambo. She is 42 years, and she's been working for PRASA for 13 years. And I think the Group CEO put it so well that the train drivers get 18 months of training. You can imagine, I think in the 13 years that she has been in PRASA, her record has got no blemish. She's done absolutely fantastic. And deceased, her name is Tiseto Napo. She was 32 years old, and both of them are from Pretoria. Gia, I think there's a roving mic, and my colleagues will give it to you.
Thank you. I don't know if this question is for Mr. Murphy or Mr. Montana. Just with regards to the report, the preliminary findings, I understand that the Metro Plus was stationary. It was the Business Express which came through and into the back. While that train driver was trying to communicate the signal, what was it exactly that the train driver in the Business Express did wrong? What was it that she did wrong in terms of this communication? Something obviously went wrong in terms of one trying to communicate, the other came through. I'm just trying to get some clarifications on what actually that train driver did wrong. I know we've spoken about her track record, impeccable track record over the years. What exactly is it that she may have done wrong?
I think we'll take a couple. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Johnny Sai. I'm with the African News Agency. First, my question goes to Mr. Murupulati for the forum. I just want to know, given the circumstances of the people who travel in trains which you represent, I want to get the sentiment. What are your people saying now? What's their feeling about using the PRASA, the Metro Rail trains? Then, just for clarity to the CEO of PRASA Rail, when you say the train which had passed the robot, just for clarity, which one of the two trains had passed the red robot, just to be clear? Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm from News 24. Gia asked almost the same question I was going to. I just wanted clarity on the fact that the Metro Plus train was stationary and was trying to contact control, saying that something's wrong with the signal. Yeah. However, the Business Express supposedly ran a red signal. So what was actually wrong? What made the Metro Plus driver think that something was actually wrong?
From Johannesburg. Yesterday there was a power failure. Did it have in any way affect the signaling of the trains?
Okay, good morning, Bongi Wakuma from eNCA. Two questions. First question is, because now we've just been given the outlining of basically what happened, when can we expect to get a report on cause? And secondly, speaking to the RSR yesterday, one of the things they were saying is that there is a system that can be fitted into the old trains. They call it like an accident avoidance system that can be fitted into the old trains. Is that something that is practical, or is it something you're looking at right now? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll take a few and then we'll come back for a second round. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. Let me say that some of the questions that are being raised, of course, are the questions that the RSR wants to answer itself. For example, we can only say the driver, of course, the driver reported. If I'm not clear, it's part of the procedures. In fact, the driver of the Metro Plus did what is correct, because it tells you that here's a driver who put safety first. It was not clear whether the system was malfunctioning or you couldn't see clearly, but he did the most responsible thing from a safety point of view. He stopped, called the train control officers to say, what does that mean? Do I proceed or do I stop? And I think that 2 minutes proved to be fatal, of course, as it were. So the Rail Safety Regulator will determine, for example, what happened. They'll also look at that signal itself in their investigation. Was it functioning as we say? Yeah. Because in our own record, there was no report of, for example, a malfunctioning system. So I think that is one of the major issues that we have to look at. But I think the final report will state that we don't want to start speculating. There's no doubt the issue is that the facts that are being put in here, it's quite clear to us that there were certain things that the driver of the Business Express didn't do right. For example, it's a 90-kilometer section. The fact that initially the train was at 105 kilometers, of course, there's an issue there. Secondly, the fact that the red signal was passed in itself a problem. But what we are saying is that those may be contributory factors. They may not be the causes. So that is why the Rail Safety Regulator will be able to say, yes, she may have had this thing, but the real cause, the root cause, is something else that you guys, maybe that train will not have stopped in the first place. So all of those things will not be able to state for definite. We'll collaborate, give both our signal data to the Rail Safety Regulator, the microprocessor on the trains to the safety regulator. They'll download that, they'll analyze, they'll bring their experts and be able to say, is it a combination of, but I think as PRASA, because we don't want to preempt an investigation that must be done by an independent authority. So that's how far we can go. Now, I know that's an important question, but the right authority to answer is the Rail Safety Regulator after it has subjected our own data to that. We are being open about the performance of the driver, of the metro, of the Business Express. But we are not saying that is a cause of that is a root cause of that. The Rail Safety Regulator will be able to answer. But quite clearly that both the speed as well as the sped played quite a major role in the unfolding events that led to the collision, as it were. So we want to put that into perspective, and I think that the Rail Safety Regulator, because we have, for example, done a detailed analysis of the signal information that we are still downloading that, and we'll share with the media once that because we want to be open about what transpired. But as we discuss here, you start to get a sense about how we run our system on a day-to-day basis. That it's a system. It's not just a set of individual decisions that are made on a random basis. We'll take up the other questions, but I want to, and I'll ask Musaimwa and Tembela to deal with that, but I want to deal with your question that you've raised about whether we can install another system. About, we don't think that is economical. In the past, of course, the Rail Safety Regulator has looked at the time when we had problems with people falling off moving trains. They wanted us to install, or there was a proposal from some of the technical people, and I must be careful not to put it as a formal position of the RSR to say, why don't you introduce a new door mechanisms that would be done? Then we looked at that, and the proposal was good, but when we looked at the cost, we said, but let's rather buy new trains. Why do we invest so much money in over-capitalizing on the trains that we intend to scrap? Because for us, the current metro rail trains no longer represent the future. They have served the country well. They were part of South Africa's own development, but we don't want to put a lot of money into that. The new trains they come with what we call automatic train protection. And that's the same thing that the Rail Safety Regulator is doing. And as I speak, the trains, part of the first 20 trains are being built in Brazil. They'll be completed in September this year, and they'll be shipped to South Africa for us to start testing them in November this year. During that time, we'll also be building a new factory to build 580 new trains in Niger. All those trains will have this automatic train protection. So they'll be fitted with that technology. They'll also have a door mechanism that makes sure that no passenger can hang outside of doors or in between carriages or coaches, as you call them. Thirdly, that the crash worthiness of these trains are such that even at 120 kilometers, that no train will climb up and do. So I think that is why we started with the first, our first statement was that it is very important to accelerate the modernization drive, because we've already done that. We've committed 51 billion rands to buying 3,600 new modern coaches that will compare to any train in the world. Effectively, what it means that from next year, South Africans in the townships will be traveling on the same train, equivalent, same technology to the Gautrain. And I think that's a major transformation that we're talking about. That people will be able to get into trains that we know their reliability is high, the safety is high, the comfort is high, the passenger communication is high, and all of those things. So I'm taking time to answer that to show that the challenge is not to buy and retrofit some system into a train that has reached the end of its design life. The process is to ensure that we deliver more trains. And as you know, the Minister of Finance did announce in the budget speech that the first 444 of the new modern trains will be delivered over during the next 3 years. And I think for us, we think the country should continue to focusing on that modernization drive rather than retrofitting on a train, which the cost would be too heavy for this company. You know that even the new trains, without the support of the National Treasury, it was even going to be difficult for PRASA out of its own balance sheet and its cash flows to be able to finance the 51 billion rand contract. So the answer in a nutshell is a no. I know that I took a long but the answer is a no. We don't want to do that. It's a conscious choice we've made not to put in new technologies on these trains. I'll ask Musenwa and Tembela to deal with the other questions.
Thank you, Group CEO. I think at this stage, I think it would be premature to apportion blame. Remember, investigations of this nature, we can establish the facts, what happened. There's a lot of technical analysis that still needs to be done on the functioning of the signals. We must interview the drivers, the train control officers. So this process is quite detailed. The train itself, both the Metro Plus and the Business Express, we must look at whether they were in good condition, the maintenance records. So these nature of investigations are very detailed. Remember, this is root cause analysis. We want to get to the bottom of the incident so that we avoid a recurrence. The purpose of these incidents is to avoid a recurrence. So the level of detail and thoroughness is the same standard that is applied even in the aviation industry. So today it would be premature for us to state who was wrong. We can state the facts as we did, but apportioning blame, I think that will come at the end of the detailed exercise itself. The question was which of the two trains committed a sped. In terms of the sped, the signal passed the danger. The Business Express is the one that passed the signal at danger.
Thanks. There was a question around power failure. In the area, we did not receive any record of power failure, but that's going to also be part and parcel of the investigation because it can happen at any given time. So that's also very important. I think RSR will respond on their own in terms of the report, but in terms of our own internal report, we're going to take 3 weeks to do our own internal report, but RSR is doing the external report. Why was the Metro Plus stationary? It's because the driver of Metro Plus could not see the nature of the signal, whether it was red, whether it was orange. If you do not see that, you then have to phone the train traffic control to give you an indication and authorize you to continue. That's the reason why that train was stationary. I think we've answered all the questions.
Yeah, thanks. I think anywhere in the world, if there is an accident, you can't say I'm not going to travel by train anymore or a bus anymore. So since yesterday, I spoke to a lot of commuters. Yes, they are afraid, they are still worried, but they are not going to say, they are still going to use the train, even if there was an accident yesterday. And I think Group CEO make it very clear to say the record speaks itself. You get this kind of accident once a year or maybe once after 2 years. So it gives you this safety public transport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You covered. Anyone? It looks you are okay. Thank you.
Karab again. Just a few questions. You said the trains will be delivered in November, right? Do we have an idea of when or how long it's going to take for you to test them and when we're going to see them operating? Will the new trains help limit or avoid such incidents in future? And regarding the two trains that were on the accident, how are the maintenance records? When was the last time they were maintained? What was replaced? What was wrong with them? And what measures are you going to be putting in place to manage and control speed? Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone going once, twice? Gone. Thank you.
Well, I thought I had the CEO of our rail division and the regional manager to answer the difficult questions. But it seems I'm working for them. I think, Karabo, the questions you are asking are very important. We've got the replacement program, and you know that that's a 10-year program for the new trains. And let me assure you that the new trains, as you know, when we introduce them, they won't be everywhere. We've identified corridors where we're going to introduce them. For example, the first of the new trains, we'll run them on the corridor from Mabopane to Pretoria, from Pretoria to Germiston Park Station Naledi. Because that is we regard that as a backbone of public transport in Gauteng. If you look at the Gauteng Transport Master Plan, it also agrees with us that we need to upgrade that corridor quite significantly because of the massive movement of people, as it were. We've divided the trains in two. All in all, as I said, we're buying 3,600 new modern coaches, which amount to 600 trains. If you configure them into an 8-car or 6-car, they'll come to 600 trains. Only 20 of those 600 trains are being manufactured in Brazil, and the reason why we do that is because we don't have a modern factory to design and build these trains here, and we are worried that if we wait for a longer period for their introduction, we are going to have a big problem because some of the current coaches of Metro Rail are meant to be retired during that time. In fact, a third of the fleet of Metro Rail in the next 5 years is supposed to be retired. So that is why the introduction of the new trains is very important. I can also confirm that the new trains will eliminate quite a number of things. It will reduce the accidents of this nature because of what is inbuilt in those trains. The electronics and the technology allows the trains to sing. You remember that unlike the current trains, the new trains will have on-board signaling as well as corresponding with the signaling outside of that. The automatic train protection is aimed at making sure that a train is protected, and that if a driver or any person operating a train break the rules, it will then make sure that that train stops or reduce that speed, as it were. You can see the how train already does that. If a driver gets into a section that is where he's supposed to be doing 80, he does 120, that train automatically will reduce that speed, as it were. Our trains will have that kind of thing that is there. Our trains will also be able to sense a train within 10 kilometers, particularly because with the new trains and the new signals, we are trying to increase the headways. In the peak hour, we have more trains in the system. But you can't have more trains in the system if you don't have a modern signaling system and you don't have an on-board. Now, when the new trains arrive or start to be delivered, they'll have all of those features. So you can see from a safety point of view, from a comfort point of view, there'll be a massive departure the current trains that we have. The timetable, as you said, that we'll start to test some of those Brazilian trains in November, and we'll do that for probably up to May next year, 2016, and that we'll start to operate them what we call commercial use, where they start running, people paying us and transporting people. But we'll run them for a while, because we need to make sure that the technology is exactly aligned to the operating conditions of the train. You don't want to have a train and it doesn't correspond to the platform, or you don't want to have a train. So those things, so before we then embark on this mass production of these trains, we need to make sure that everything is lined. And then thereafter, we'll then replace or introduce 360 new coaches a year over that 10-year period. And also during that time, we'll replace some of the old Metro Rail trains to scrap them, because they will no longer be fit to carry people, as it were. We will not provide now, but we can send that information later on the specific, because you're asking another important question on the maintenance record of the two trains. But what we can tell you, what I can say at the general level, let me make two important points. The first one is that we've introduced what we call a preventative maintenance program. And that maintenance program, it does quite a number of things to make sure that we keep the current fleet running. Because this fleet that we have, it may be old and we're going to scrap it. But it's very important for people to understand that our system is going to rely for the next 5 to 7 years on these trains. So we can't just abandon, we've got to maintain them. So we've got a rigorous program. If you go to our depots, you go to Bramfontein, you'll see, for example, we brought in new equipment or to make sure that we run the current fleet. You'll see that we've increased the number of engineers as well as artisans to make sure that we keep the current fleet running as it were. I'm now giving to you what we do on the maintenance. For specifically the Business Express, we've had a regime that every month, of course, that train should be taken out to make sure that it's maintained, because it's got other additional features that needs to be done. But what I'm going to ask, because we may not have that about the two specific trains, we'll ask our engineering team to pull out that information and ensure that it's sent to you this afternoon, so that we see that the record is good. But I don't think that we'll have a problem. It was done over the weekend.
Yes, done over the weekend.
What, the Business Express?
Both trains over the weekend, they go for maintenance. And before the driver takes the train, they do brake tests, so that you're clear that the wipers function, the brakes function, but the mechanical condition of both trains was done over the weekend.
So that's your first line. A pilot does the same thing with the aircraft. Yeah. People think we run these old trains and we just wake up one morning and things just happen. So this just affirms that it's a very costly system, because it's old trains. But those procedures, I want to assure you, are there, and we always run them to make sure that we deliver a very safe service to the people.
Just in addition to that, there's what we call fault reporting. So whenever a driver picks up problems, by the time the train ends its service, he reports that. There's a system that captures that information, and overnight work has got to be done on that train. Just to get on speed monitoring, because I think that's a very important point. The Group CEO mentioned our robust safety management system. And it's very important to mention the fact that the issue of speed, it's something that we monitor tightly. We've got a great, at Metro Rail, we call them section managers. Their role is primarily safety, particularly monitoring safety performance on the side of the train drivers. We've got speed monitoring equipment. And of course, we also do your random tests, fitness for duty. So our system is quite robust. But of course, you will have, like in any other area, you would have areas where there's transgression. But as the Group CEO indicated, I think we've put a very stringent regime to deal with transgressions. And I think when we took that decision, particularly after the Mzimhlope incident, we decided that there will be zero tolerance in relation to your signals past that danger, as well as the exceeding the section speeds. But of course, after a thorough process has been undertaken, but we do have systems to monitor driver performance.
Thank you.
I think we have come to the end of the press conference. I think if there are questions or one-on-ones, we'll arrange after this. I just want to make a couple of announcements. The first one is that I inadvertently omitted to mention that Ms. Nabo has been working for PRASA for 10 years, and then that a memorial service for her will be held on Friday.
Thursday.
Oh, okay, sorry, I got a note that says Friday. Thursday, the PM says Thursday at 10 in the morning at the Methodist Church, Corner Andres and Pesach Street here in Pretoria. And then her funeral will be on Saturday in Soshanguve. We will indicate the time and the venue either later today or tomorrow. I also want to mention that the two walk-in centers, one is located here. I'm sure you've been seeing people quietly walking on the side to there to register their claims. I wanted to give you the numbers for both of them. The first one is 012-748-0052, and then the second one is 012-748-7233. And then finally, thank the Group CEO for the time it had taken out to communicate with the public and also with you on what PRASA is doing to address the accident that took place yesterday. He went to the accident scene in the morning and to hospital, Charles Makleke Hospital, and Milpark. In fact, he left there, I think it was almost midnight, and this morning is here with you. And thank you very much, Group CEO, and also the CEO of Rail, and the regional manager for Metro Rail in Gauteng. She was not well herself, but she decided to come. I think I want to mention my colleague, I don't see her here. I think she's done fantastic, fielding all the questions. I think even around 1 o'clock last night I was talking to her, she was still driving and all of that. I see she's looking strong this morning. Thank you very much to you also, Elaine. I think with those few words, colleagues, thank you very much.
Thank you.
County.
Yeah?